All right, so we're still talking about immune system function and the role that calcium plays in that process, but there's two other players. The first one would be vitamin D in the form primarily of vitamin D3. This is something that we can get in food, but we also make through exposure to ultraviolet rays from the sun, where it's converted, where fats are converted in the skin to vitamin D. Now, D picks up calcium from the gut and brings it to the blood, which we know is very important in immune system function for that calcium to reach certain levels. If you don't have enough D on board, it's very difficult for your calcium to get where it needs to go to turn on the immune system. So D is really, really important, but you can get too much of it. Such would be the case for somebody who's been out in the sun for too long. D is kind of, I think of it as like a magnet for calcium. So if you're in the sun for a long time, you can actually pull calcium out of your tissues, creating a tissue calcium deficiency into the blood. And we have to have a way to balance that. And we do that with the third player, that would be vitamin F. Vitamin F is found in fatty meats and butter, which really helps to bring your calcium from the blood into the tissues where it needs to be, including the lungs, like in COVID-19. So those two things are really, really important for calcium transport. Functional indicators of those deficiencies would be canker sores, hives, nocturnal cramps. Sometimes that's an indication that the person has a tissue calcium deficiency, not that they're not getting enough calcium, but they aren't able to transport it properly. So we're looking at those two other factors, the D and the F, to make that happen. So those are really foundational to turning on the immune system. The last player in immune system function on a foundational level from a nutritional standpoint is vitamin C. And that is not to be confused with ascorbic acid, which is the outer antioxidant portion of the whole vitamin C complex. It's actually those inner components, including the tyrosinase, that act as immune modulators. So getting massive amounts of ascorbic acid, the shell again of the vitamin C molecule, does not aid in immune system function like getting whole food vitamin C. So we use Cataplex C in that case. I told you guys I'd tell you what we do in terms of all these nutrients. We've talked about calcium lactate. The dosage there for us is 6 per day on an average basis, but if we come down with anything, we will up that. Vitamin D I take on a regular basis starting in the fall through early spring, but then in the summertime I back off of vitamin D because, again, I don't want to have too much of that in my blood because of its affinity for calcium. We don't want to lock that calcium in the blood. So in the summertime, I don't supplement with D. In the wintertime, I do. And when it comes to vitamin F, we do take Cataplex F. And I want to talk a little bit more about that. There's been a big push to couple vitamin K2 with D and calcium for metabolism of calcium. Well, if you look at where vitamin K2 comes from, primarily fatty meats and butter, if you're deficient in K2, you're deficient in those fats, which is really the bigger issue in causing that problem. If you're getting those good fats that we're talking about, you should not have a K2 problem, and calcium assimilation should be adequate. So I hope that gives you more information on the foundations of immune system function. I want to speak again about herbs, but that's going to be another topic. Thank you.